Yeah, don't do Thank you very much for coming today. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Munganaz family for affording us this opportunity to have our UCAN meetings. I'd also like to take time to introduce our host, or one of our hosts, Ms. Shan Herwig from Munganaz family. She's in charge of business development, correct? And I give the floor to you, Ms. Herwig.
Thank you all very much for coming. At this point, we would just like to invite you to please have your lunch. That was sweet, short. We're all hungry, right? So
introduce somebody very important to us, Miss Erin Kelly. Erin? So Erin is with Step Up St. Louis, and she's the co-host sponsor for this great event and luncheon. So I'd like to introduce to you Ms. Erin Kelly.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I hope you all are enjoying your food. Just wanted to start this off personally. Thank each of you for everything you do for our community. I have been with the organization about 4 years. It's been together about 7. I wanted to ask if the board members that are here today could stand up really quick. They're all in the back. We have a really fantastic board of about 12 that, we've really established what we're doing in this organization, what we're doing in the community, and are very proud to be part of it. I think I know 3/4 of this room because you have given yourself in very significant ways to help us, help community kids. That's really special. Captain Means, did you stand up? Because he's also a board member of ours. So thank you. Just a little bit about Step Up of St. Louis. We are the federally funded anti-drug program for South St. Louis County. So we work pretty heavily with the schools in the area and different community groups to do what we can to help teens understand that drug use is not their best option. We help families figure out what to do once that's the case in their family. So a lot of counseling, guidance, connection with resources. If it's something to help a teenager, we're willing to do it, able, and really love that opportunity. So if you're ever in a situation where you're dealing with a family that needs extra support and you're not necessarily sure where to send them next, give me a call. My business card is actually on the table. My cell phone's there. Feel free to text, email, call. We're available at all times, and again, have really great community partners. So thank you so much. Thanks so much for having us. I would like to next introduce our newest chief. If he could come up, he's going to introduce the speakers. Thank you so much, Chief Gregory.
And Shannon, we'd like to again thank you for what you've done here. This has always been coming here has always been a great time for us to come here. You guys do it so well here. Our goal right now, Charlie, is to get more justice. I know all you policemen. I know all you all, and our goal here to continue the UCAN is to. I know we've had a lot of people that RSVP said they would be here. Obviously, they're not here. I think people kind of still afraid to get out amongst each other, but we're going to work on that. What's going on with the police department now? A number of things. The biggest thing going on with us is the mandatory vaccination. We're dealing with that. I believe we have something like 68% of our police officers vaccinated. About another 32% that are not vaccinated that we hope and pray that they're going through the weekly test. We have a special order out on them to direct them as to how to do that. This will be our first week getting results back from the test, so we'll see how it's working. For all of you guys, like I'm talking to police and you guys know what's going on. Possibility of 12 hours, well, we are going to do a 12-hour shift. It's going to just be a trial basis of 2 precincts. We're going to do the North County precinct and the West County precinct. Pilot basis to see how this is going to work. Still some kinks they ran into when they were doing the scheduling. Because we got all of that taken care of before we decided to go with the entire department with 12-hour shifts. Bottom line is we're doing that because of our shortage of manpower, and at the same time still trying to bring people in. And you'll hear a lot about our recruiting that's going on. Mike Sheldon just up here talk to you about what's happening with recruiting. And I keep the same story everywhere I go. We talk about recruiting. It's nationwide. It's not just the St. Louis County Police Department. It's all over the nation. Getting people to want to be policemen. We have people leaving the profession. Something coming also. So they'll talk to you about that. Hopefully the 12-hour shifts will help us deal with our manpower. I was talking to Shan earlier about the upcoming Guns and Hoses. And we had a meeting last night. I was unable to make that meeting last night, but the story at the Guns and Hoses is that ticket prices are awfully low. There are a ton of seats available. And this is the first year that we're going to, the Guns and Hoses going to be televised. And obviously we want those seats to be filled up. So you need tickets, you know people that need to get there. We got tickets for you, okay? We got tickets for you to sell out this Guns and Hoses. Always, obviously, you all know what Guns and Hoses does and how big of a benefit it's been for all of us. What else? We're having town hall meetings right now. We had one in South County last Saturday. Interesting meeting, which they normally all are. We have a town hall meeting scheduled in West County on the 15th of November. Tentative date for a town hall meeting in Mark County on the 17th of November. Again, getting a lot of information from them, letting them know what they want from us, and definitely they let us know exactly what they want from us. So we're working toward that. Pretty much about it that I got right now. Dan, did you have something? Okay. I did forget to ask our guests if you would introduce yourselves. Like I said, we know the policeman. Start hit the front table. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, talk to the bad time. Thanks, Rob. Well, how many years you put in with St. Louis City? 40? And 9 and 0 foul. Just kidding. Don't. Great having you here, Roy. Yes, sir. Talk to your new, who's the chief down there? I talked to him just the other day. Who else do we have? Aaron, your board back there, you want to introduce yourselves? Everybody wants to know. Thank you. Brandon, you have a guest sitting behind you? Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank all of you all for being here. As I mentioned earlier, our department, along with departments all over the nation, suffering from recruiting, trying to get people in here. Always, I emphasize to the officers in our department that every last one of us are recruiters. That's how we get people. Let them know what this department is about. Hopefully, that we can get qualified people here to do this job. So, you guys know anybody? Send them our way. We're hiring. Okay. Um, Got Michael Sheldon here. He's going to talk to you a little bit about our recruiting and some of the efforts that we're putting forth and as far as bringing people forward. Michael, it's all yours, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Shelton. I'm a recruiting officer, St. Louis County Police Department Recruitment Office. Most of you may know me, some of you may not know me. It's a pleasure to be here speaking in front of you today. I just want to recognize the host of this event. It's my first time participating, so I hope it don't be the last. But glad to be here. Recognizing the chief, the command staff as a whole, other business leaders and partners. Thank you. I've been a police officer for over 14 years. My experience has been different. It's been a great experience. I love my job. I love the work I do. I love being in the recruitment office. I'm glad I have the opportunity. I'm glad I have the opportunity to be in the recruitment office because it gives me a lot of chances to go out and recruit the best candidates for our police department. Our team is a great team, the recruitment office. I haven't been in the recruitment office long, but I've learned to realize that we have a great team in our recruitment office. Just to give some of you all what we have in our recruitment office and how it's made up, that's pretty much what I'm going to be speaking about today and where the recruitment office is trying to go. Me, Michael Shelton, recruitment officer with Officer Kim Haas, who couldn't be here today because she had another recruitment event. Sometimes me and Kim are at recruitment events together, and sometimes we have to part ways to cover a lot of recruitment events, try to get better candidates. We're supervised by Sergeant Matthew Hawk, who has a wealth of experience. His guidance has been great since he's been there. Our commander is Lieutenant Jack Webb. He's over our unit. He oversees all the work that we do in our personnel unit. We have six background investigators who handle all the background for our candidates. The background investigations can be very tedious and timely sometimes. In the background, we have to find the best candidates that we need in our police department. Our professional staff or the clerks that work in our office, they handle all the employee paperwork. Anything that comes to our office, it could be transfers, it could be job postings, things of that nature. This all helps run the recruitment office. Most of us here know who we are in the police department, but some of you may not know. But we're a human resources division. Most companies have human resources division. And that human resources division is the personnel services unit. Personnel services unit is the unit that handles all employee processes of the human resources. And underneath that umbrella is the recruitment office. That's where I'm located, and Officer Kim House is located. In the recruitment office, we have a important, very important job, because as the chief spoke to you all and said this afternoon, we have to get the best candidates in our community, in our county, to work. We have a lot of issues with people being hired because of their background, or they may not understand, or because of qualifications and things of that nature. But as police officers, we have to represent the police department in a positive light. There's a lot of negative light, but we got to recognize that and move forward with that in our individual units and in our platoons and places that we work. Our mission is to assist the department in conducting an organized and efficient search for the best qualified candidates, be diverse, and also to fill those positions with commissioned jobs and civilian jobs. That's not always an easy task, because the St. Louis County Police Department has a high standard, and our standard is great. We have a great standard, because a lot of applicants come through our office that we think may be qualified, or they appear to be qualified, but once they go through the process, during each step, those candidates can be disqualified. But what we have to do as a department is try to make that process a little better and a little different. Going into the field, our recruiters, we go into the field to a lot of different places. We go to schools, we go to middle schools, high schools, colleges. And from my experience and from what I've heard before I came into the recruitment office, we have hired individuals from those different school levels, and are now employees of the police department. Middle school, we've come into the schools in the middle schools, we've come into the high schools, we've gone into the colleges. At these career fairs that we go to, which are great because we come across college students who are already used to learning and used to doing schoolwork and used to having deadlines to follow. That also helps when they apply for St. Louis County Police Department and go through that process. One thing that sticks out in my mind is the word innovation. Innovation is a word that is not used often sometimes, but we need to use it more often, because the way of the world has changed, technology has changed, and in the recruitment office, we're striving to go above and beyond what's been done in the past. There are a lot of good things that have been done in the past with recruitment and in the recruitment office, but we're trying to venture out and try different things. We definitely plan on going to all the precincts and speaking of recruitment, where we can get the officers on board, because some officers don't know me, some officers don't know Officer Haas. Some officers know me, some officers do not know Officer Haas. So we want to extend ourselves to them and to the department, so everyone knows who we are, and they see our faces, and we stress to them how important it is to recruit officers while working in whatever division that you're in. We also plan on visiting congregations, churches, spiritual facilities, so we can get the word out as well, because some of us are part of some spiritual congregation or something, some may not be, but they're a part of the community just as well as other entities, and we want to make sure we go to those entities and go to those different institutions to stress the need for police officers, for good police officers, men and women, to work in this police department, so our community can be better, because we have a lot of issues going on in our community. Who do we recruit? Some may know, some may not know, of course, but we recruit for a lot of different jobs. course, we recruit for police officers because we're St. Louis County Police Department. We recruit for security officers. Excuse me. Recruit for dispatchers. We recruit for report clerks. We recruit for record clerks, warrant clerks, police cadets, and interns. We also have an Explorer program for teenagers in our department as well. Police officers is our main goal. Our community and our department cannot operate without police officers. So that's our number one goal, is to get good qualified police officers, be it experience, be it education, military experience, all gathered in one. But we want to make sure we get good police officers, good security officers. We have security officers that work in all our government buildings, and they also assist the police. They're also supervised and overseen by the police department. Our dispatchers are our communications for the police department. They handle our 911 calls and take calls over the phone and communicate with those in the field. Our report clerks handle all police reports. When police reports are typed up, they type those reports up as well when the officer calls those reports in. Our record clerks, of course, they handle records. Warrant clerks handle warrants. Our police cadets, one thing I want to express and stress about our police cadets is we want to make our program stronger with police cadets, because we're finding in the recruitment office that some police cadets, they get hired and they may have a mindset or have a plan to go somewhere else. So we want to dig into that a little deeper with our process as well in the recruitment office, to try to get more cadets to stay in our department. And we do have officers in our department that used to be cadets that are now police officers. Some of you may have been cadets. I don't know. Our interns, we have a very strong intern program. Our interns we have a lot of interns that are hired through our intern process. We have a great process. You have to be a junior or a senior in college, enrolled in school to become an intern in our police department. I think that's a very good pipeline to our police department with different jobs that we have, because they get to see and have an insight on what's going on in the police department. Our application process, some of you may not know our application process. Some of you may know our application process. It's very detailed. It's simple for the applicant to apply and list everything they list in their application, but the application process is very detailed. And each person that takes a part in the application process has to know what they're doing, and they have to be diligent in what they're doing. During our application process, when someone submits an application, we receive it in the recruitment office. We review that application, and whatever they put in the application, that's what we review. If they forget something, if they list something, if they list some crime that they committed, if they don't list it, we get it and look at it. That's the initial screening. Our initial screening, we go through the process, look through everything before we put it into the record check. We send it over to a record check. The record check reveals if they have criminal history that can disqualify them from the process. Each one of these steps, you can be disqualified from the process. If they're disqualified from that process, they don't move on. They continue on in that process. They don't have a felony or a class A misdemeanor, they continue on in that process. A written or physical examination is also done after that record check is done. A written test is done also it helps the department understand who's trying to apply with their department. Some tests you have to pass or fail, some you don't. Personality tests. Our physical examination must be fit to be in this process as a police officer. All applicants do not take physical tests, just security and police officers. During that process, you can be eliminated if you don't pass those physical or written examinations. The next step is our background investigations, which again is a tedious task of going through the background investigations. It can be lengthy, it can be somewhat lengthy, but it's done in a particular way that's diligent with the officers, with the investigators who do the background investigations. And again, I want to say they do a great job, because some things that other police departments don't find in background investigations, our background investigators find them. The next section is final review board. Our final review board is the board that can be made up of commanders, in our police department, within our police department, be lieutenant, captains, or lieutenant colonels, maybe chief, I don't know, but it's, but it's made up of commanders of our police department. That's where the individual applicant comes and sits in front of the police board and interview and ask questions and verify different things in their application. Uh, that way, our command staff gets to see who's wanting to become part of our police department. After that, they pass to the next step. They have medical and psychological examination. During that, everything that's done during that time will let us know if they're fit for duty to continue on the process. Then after that, they have a hiring date and they start the process. Our plan of action. Our plan of action is very simple. It's very simple, but it's a job that must be done. We must attend job fairs, continue to attend job fairs. Just because we've been to them in the past doesn't mean we're going to stop going now. Job fairs are very important because there are students out there that do not know anything about us. They don't know anything. They just know what they hear on the news or what they may read or something like that, or someone else may know about them, or they may have seen the car driver in their neighborhood. But some people don't know about our police department and the jobs that we have in our police department. Develop relationships with high schools and colleges. I found developing relationships with high schools and colleges is very important because students, a lot of us have children, so they have a lot of questions about law enforcement. When we're in those settings, students are unaware of what an officer may go through on a daily basis, or what an officer has to endure while working, or what an officer has to take on in order to get into that position. At that early age, at that early stage, you can almost think, for those who play sports, if you were a person that played sports when you were young, you didn't really know the importance of playing sports until maybe you got into high school or you got into a place of employment where you had to use those skills, or you had to use that knowledge that you learned as an adolescent when you were younger playing sports. Those are the type of things that we instill in those students when we go to them and speak to them. We're instilling in what our police department is about, what we represent, and why this is a good place to work, is the best place to work. So we do that when we go to the schools, and we're received very well. We attend community events. It's very, very, very important for the community to know who we are and to see us, because like anyone else, I've been driving in a police car and someone has told me, well, we just see the police driving by. You know, we don't want that stigma with our police department. We want them to know us. We want to know the community that we work in and that we live in. It best represents us. Finally, we must network with local organizations such as this one. Networking with local organizations is very important. Sometimes local organizations have resources that can help us. Sometimes we can network and come together and come up with solutions or things that will be effective to help recruitment, to help us bring better applicants and better people to our police department. And we have to do that by networking with our organizations. Organizations is very important. We must not forget about them and keep them in mind. And whatever opportunity you have to connect with an organization, please do so. If there's something that we can do in the recruitment office to do that, please let us know. I look into the future. As we look, we want our goal to continue to develop new and innovative strategies, to recruit, to hire, develop, and retain qualified, diverse candidates. That's just basically summing up everything that I said. We are working extremely hard, despite what others may think or some may say. We are working extremely hard in the recruitment office. There's been a transition of recruiters through our office, and we're working hard to make that better with our recruitment efforts. We're going to go above and beyond to do what we need to do to be diverse and find those candidates. Lastly, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. Any questions that you have or any concerns, I'll be up here at the table. I have my card. You can contact me at this number right here, 615-7824. Find us on our website, stlouiscountypolice.com/careers. I want to thank you for the opportunity once again, and it's my presentation.
Michael, this is your second extent with us. Mike, your second extent with us with the St. Louis County Police Department. How long did you work here with the person? 3 months, then you went to airport. Welcome back, and I'm glad to have you back. Great job up here. Keep up the good work. You ever heard of ticket quotas? Okay, I'm putting a quote on you. How many can you hire before the year is over? Okay. Great presentation. As I said, we're all recruiters, and that's just his position doing the job. So next, I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Scott Roach. Scott heads up our wellness program, something that every police department needs, things that he does with the officers out here. And we're looking into him helping us with the wellness when it comes to dealing with our 12-hour shifts, because there are some differences that they're going to have to experience working 12 hours. What he does and what he conveys to them is going to be very important. We have, certain wellness counseling that we do, especially for some of our officers upstairs in DCI, Division of Special Operations, with some of the things that they see. Sometimes it's just good to sit down and talk about some of the experiences that they experience. So they're required, and Scott handles all that. Scott, all yours, sir.
Well, thank you very much. And I know there's a lot of policemen in the room, so this is going to be a preview to in-service, all right? So, but for everybody else, just to kind of give you an idea how I got here and what I do, my unit started in January thanks to forward-thinking and progressive commanders in our department. We are kind of, I say locally, we're innovators because there's really no departments locally that have a wellness unit. And but nationally, we're kind of catching up because there's a lot of wellness units, peer support teams, things like that are on both coasts. And it's just kind of started to creep into the middle. Indianapolis, for example, they've got a robust wellness unit. Louisville, Nashville, all have great units. And finally, now we get to join them. So, so privileged to be here and glad to be here. I started looking into wellness in 2011. By the way, I guess on paper, the official title for me, or the description of what I do, is I am responsible for ensuring the mental, emotional, and physical well-being of all 1,200 plus employees of the St. Louis County Police Department and their families. So it's a daunting task. I'm also in charge of the chaplains. I am very blessed, no pun intended, to have 25 chaplains that work for me. Rabbi Mark Shook is in charge of my chaplains, and I call him boss. That's just how it goes if you look a good rabbi. But it started for me in 2011. In 2011 is when I got promoted to sergeant. I've been working on trying to get this established for a decade. 2011, I got promoted to sergeant. I went to the midnight watch in the 1st precinct, and I was always wonder to this day who I upset prior to being promoted, why I ended up on midnights. But either way, it wasn't about 4 weeks into my tenure as a sergeant, and an officer called me and said, "Hey, can you meet me at the dead end of 367? I want to talk to you." I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I went down, and I thought for sure it was going to be, should I write a report for this? I forgot to send a teletype. I need a day off or whatever it might be. And he said 3 words that just rocked my world. I need help. And I didn't know what to do. I did not know what to do. Later on, I will tell you right now, and I'll get into it a little bit, but the situation actually got worse when I gave him the advice that I gave him. So we'll cover that in a little bit. So here's basically what I do. This is just a snapshot. Every one of these is a race car on a track that I am hopping out of and hopping into the next car and taking it around. I hop out of that, I get into the next one. So some of these are on the way. Some of these are happening right now. I'm just going to talk about the ones that are highlighted in white for today. So we'll start with CISM. Again, to the officers in the room, I think you've heard me preach about this forever, but for our civilian folks in the room, let me just give you an idea of what we do. When we're involved in a critical incident, and I'll talk about this in a second, when we're involved in a critical incident, we do a debrief. So CISM stands for Critical Incident Stress Management. It's a concept, but it's also the name of an organization that I belong to, CISM of Greater St. Louis. So basically what we do is we respond and do debriefs for critical incidents that happen all around the St. Louis area. I've been as far south as Cape Girardeau. I've been as far west as Boone County. We've even gone into Illinois. and I do this on a voluntary basis. So just some examples of some local critical incidents that have occurred. Some of you may be familiar with them. I remember hearing about the July storm on Highway 70 and the floodwaters rose and a 12-year-old who unfortunately swept away. We did a critical incident debrief for that. That incident happened in front of first responders. It happened in front of police officers. They saw that happen. We get called to the scene to help, and when something like that happens, we are absolutely helpless. And if we expect as humans or as a department or any organization, if you expect that officer to be able to go home and put his head down on the pillow at night and sleep soundly, that's crazy. That movie starts in their head, and then they start second guessing themselves. That's what a debrief helps do. The Highway 109 tragedy, this happened a few years ago out in Wildwood. Again, I hate to keep bringing these things back up, but these are examples. Remember the daddy-daughter dance? Dad's walking his little girl across Highway 109 to the overflow parking after a Rockwood School District type dance. And she was run over by a car and killed while he was walking her across the road. Officers responded to that. First responders were at that. They have that picture in their mind of what happened that day. It's hard to get rid of. We do line of duty deaths as well. We just did one last week for the Pontoon Beach officer that was killed in the line of duty. So we do these things. And then finally, I put on there pediatric anything. If it involves a kid in any way, shape, or form, that screws up cops the most. It screws them up even more if they have kids. It screws them up even more if they have kids that age. I'll talk about a little bit about that as we go too. So we do these things because, like Micah said, he works hard. He works hard at getting these things in place. He works hard at recruiting and getting people here. We want to keep people here. That's a new challenge, especially generationally. Generationally, I don't know where you all fit on this table. I have an idea where some folks fall on this graph. But generationally, we're mostly, Micah, and you might be able to tell me, are we getting Gen Z or are we getting millennials in mostly? Millennials, yep, and some Gen Z. Now, they've got some great traits, right? And I'm not going to bash on the millennials, but I will say that they are more concerned about their mental and physical health than any generation before them. That comes from generational differences courses I've taken and conferences I've listened to. They care more about themselves mentally and physically than any generation before them. So if you have colleagues that are millennials or Gen Z, or if you're hiring, and not just our police department, that is on the top of their list. It's interesting some of the things they talk about. They're family-centric. Find me, I come from 10 years in the traffic unit, where the Missouri Department of Transportation said, please give as much overtime to your officers as you can. They even tried to find a way to do triple time for officers, but we couldn't pull it off because this new generation, they don't want to work overtime. They just don't. They'd rather spend time with their families. They're obviously very tech savvy, they're digital natives. These are the types of things that they get into. And I'm trying to help placate that a little bit. I'm trying to make things available to this generation. And this is one of them because they want this stuff. They want to be taken care of. And we want to keep them. We want them to feel taken care of. So with that in mind, I'll get into the first thing. We do a thing at the police academy called Family Night. Now, for those of us that have been around a long time, we've done family nights in the past, but we've put a different spin on it, and I've stolen this idea from all across the nation. Family Night, what we do is we bring in the recruits, soon-to-be officers. We get them 1 week before they graduate, and in our case, we're getting them about 4 or 5 days before they graduate. We invite them and their families to show up. We talk to the whole group, then we separate them into 2 panels. We separate them into 2 rooms. We have all the family members only over here and a panel of officers to talk to them. And then we separate all the officers, soon-to-be officers, in a room over here. And we have a panel that's going to talk to them. And then we just say, hey, here's what's coming your way. Here are the things you need to be prepared for. There's a major question that I'm going to bring up that I always bring up in Family Night. And I would bring this up to any officer that is in the room right now, no matter how long you've been an officer. I want to know, and I hope you've got a plan. And this is the problem. This is something that you need to think about. So we tell the recruits, when you get home tonight, have a family plan. Have a plan with your spouse, your children, your mom, on how you're going to answer this question. Because don't forget, when you come home and you've had the worst day in your career, and we all know that worst is a lie, right? There's going to be more worst days after that. You walk in the door after seeing a pediatric crash where a little girl was killed, and it's traumatic and it's tragic. You walk in the door and your spouse says, honey, how was your day? How are you going to answer that question? Here's some bad answers. I'm not talking about it. Off to the man cave, off to the she shed, whatever it might be. You're gone. Grab a beer. You're going to sit down. You're not going to talk about it. Maybe you even say, I'm not going to talk about it. You sit down. You isolate yourself. I'm not going to my mother-in-law's tonight. I don't like her anyway, but I especially don't want to go because of something I just saw, right? So what are you going to do if? Because here's the problem. I want to ask this to you. If you do any of those things, could that be considered lack of communication? That's the number one and number two. They always fight for the reason for divorce in our profession, lack of communication. So when that officer gets home, and we tell all the new guys, when you get home, how are you going to answer this question? Do you know how many times I got this question during Ferguson? A bazillion times. When I was seen on the news, bringing a bad guy from here to there during Ferguson, my daughter saw that. And she asked me what happened. That opened a whole other discussion. So again, when you get asked this question, to the officers in the room right now, how was your day? You better be prepared for answer that question. All right, what are you going to say? And by the way, we give them some solutions. Sometimes we say, give them 28 hours, play the 24-hour card. Honey, when I walk in the door and I give you the secret sign, and that means I'm not going to talk about this for 24 hours or 48 hours. I promise we'll talk about it, but just not right away. I got to kind of get my thoughts together. Have a plan. So I'm talking about the EAP, the Employee Assistance Program. This is the most underutilized resource that we have. The Employee Assistance Program, I guarantee that I know that every agency that's represented out there, except for like one or two, which that's actually pretty sad, but almost every agency that we have in the greater St. Louis area has an Employee Assistance Program. But a lot of times nobody knows that they even have it. So here's what I like to say. By the way, this is a picture of our gymnasium for the St. Louis County Police Department. Just kidding. Some employee assistance programs, for any case anybody in here is close friends with employee assistance program, some employee assistance programs are run like gym memberships, right? Think about it. You walk into a gym, they want your money, they want it every month. It's going to be direct debited out of your account, right? And then what? I'll tell you then what. They never want to see you again, right? They don't want you, because every time you walk in the door, every time you flush the toilet, get a drink of water, sweat all over some machine, and then some kid's got to come around behind you and clean it all up, you cost them money. Well, EAPs bank on the stigma that's attached with us getting help. They know that in our profession, typically, we don't get help, although I will argue that this new generation, we're teetering. I think that stigma is melting away. But they bank on the fact that we're not going to use that resource. So it is the most underutilized resource that's out there. So after Ferguson, which was in August of 14, it was about a year or so after that, one of our high-level commanders went to the doctor for his annual checkup. And the doctor said, "Oh, you're a police officer." Okay. And he said, "I've been seeing a lot of you guys." And the commander said, "Really? You've been seeing a lot of policemen? What for?" And he said, "Sleep aids." Red flag. That's a huge red flag. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what job you do. If any psychologists in the room or psychology majors, there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the very bottom of that pyramid is health needs, is physical needs. Sleep is one of them. You have to get sleep. It's how you heal. So what was happening is a lot of people weren't getting any sleep. They were having mental health issues. A lot of times as a result of that, they were becoming unhealthy. So next thing you know, I told that commander, I said, I have a colleague out in Connecticut that I'd like to go talk to because they have a wellness unit out there. And boom, I'm on a plane. I mean, I'm literally make it happen, get out there. So I went out there with a couple other colleagues, and we spent a few days with the Connecticut State Police to learn how we could be better at what we did, or what we do. I met Sergeant Troy Anderson with the Connecticut State Police because I brought him in for a conference during a MAD conference back in 2013. And because I'm on the board of advisors for MAD, and we held a whole conference, and the whole conference was about mental health issues and things like that. But the one thing we covered that in my career I didn't get a lot of training for was called the knock. And I know everybody in here wearing a badge knows what the knock is, but for those of you that don't, the knock is when you have to go to somebody's door, knock on it, and tell them the worst news they're ever going to hear in their life. It's a notification. You have to let them know that their loved one has passed away, and it was almost always traumatic. It was never expected. Well, what we do in this conference was we explained there's a toll that it takes on the officer that makes that delivery too. We're not robots. You don't just knock on the door, give them the worst news, and then go and take the next call. There is a significant response to that by the officer. So I said, I'm going to look for somebody that can talk about that response in mental health. So I went online and I found Sergeant Troy Anderson with the Connecticut State Police, and I called him and I vetted him, and we were probably about 5 minutes into our conversation. I said, well, Do you have any experience in this? He was in charge of the mental health response to Sandy Hook. There was Sandy Hook and that horrible tragedy. He basically is a CISM for all of Connecticut for all the first responders to Sandy Hook. I said, get your butt here. So he came to our conference, and I did what every policeman does, but looks like it was maybe hard to do today. I sat in the back row of this conference, and I started listening to him talk. And when he started talking, I got up, I moved to the front row, and I just stared at him with a legal pad, and I just took notes. And I said, we don't have anything like this around here. That really helped put me on my journey to this, right? It just kind of helped further that. 15 was kind of a post-Ferguson. 16, we lost Blake Snyder in the line of duty. 17 was the Stockley verdict in the city where we sent a lot of officers down to help, right? All of that stuff. Did you know that during Stockley, I know of at least one family for sure, where we actually had spouses slashing the tires of their police officers' cars so they couldn't go to work that day. This affects the family, right? We have to address this, and that's what this does. That's what this helps do. And the EAP definitely helps that. So after that, I had a class. I got an opportunity to speak at In-Service several years ago, and everybody got to listen to 50 minutes of me. And I taught everybody how to use the EAP. I didn't call it for dummies. I knew I'd probably rub people the wrong way and lose the crowd. But so employee assistance program for cops. And I just basically stood up there and said, here's how it works. It's free. It's free for your families. There's a website. It's free. You can get out there. And the biggest misunderstanding is, well, I'm only allowed to go to the EAP 3 times. No, we negotiated that you can go more than 3 times. I was actually on the committee for the St. Louis County government to help pick the contract. And that's what we negotiated so we could get more visits, because that's a big deal. It's kind of a standard. You're only allowed a couple of visits and then you're out. That's kind of how it works. Your benefit expires. But we negotiated more visits. So anyway, I explained that to everybody, and I get a quarterly usage report. And at that quarterly usage report at the end of the year, actually, EAP use amongst police officers went up 62%. That's amazing. Can you imagine what it took that day for somebody to get up and say, today's the day, I need help? They look in the mirror and it's like, today, I'm going to get some help. How long they've been stewing on that? I remember I went to a meeting with St. Louis County government HR, and we were kind of revisiting the contract, and there was a really old HR guy sitting across from me, and he read that Roach report, and he looked up at me and he said, what's wrong with you guys? And I said, what's wrong with us? I said, you're welcome. I said, what did it take for us to wake up that day? I said, we're seeking help. And this is one of the points I made, and it boils down to what Micah was talking about earlier. Don't we want the best employee that we can get? We want them to be healthy, mentally and physically. As citizens of St. Louis County, don't you want the detective that's going to come out and see you to be at the top of their game and be the best that they can be? Don't you want that officer out there to be the best guy who's in a good mood, who's healthy, he's rock solid? You need that. You deserve that. You pay for that, right? I would argue you're probably not too interested in the person that's giving you a speeding ticket, right? But I get it. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm saying. So Micah, you and I, we've got a lot in common. I'm trying to keep people here, but we'll cross that in a minute. Real quick, here's an example of some of the things the Employee Assistance Program can do for you. I'm not going to go through them all, but a lot of people didn't realize that this is stuff that they're available to do. They can help you quit tobacco. They can help you locate a pet sitter. They can help you vet elder care. They can locate a grass-eating goat. They literally did that. Our company that we contract with, which is ComPsych, they hang their hat on the fact that they found a grass-eating goat for one of their clients. So it helps. I went online to the website and I searched in the topic hair loss. Yeah. Now, I've been using my wife's avocado oil stuff, and I think it's starting to come back. But in the meantime, I like my cul-de-sac. I appreciate what I've got. So, but no, I mean, I clicked on hair loss, and I got like 3 articles on how to cope with hair loss. I mean, it's that silly. I get it. And by the way, that one was on my quarterly usage report too, because when I did it, it's boom, there it is. It's like, oh, that was me. So anyway, this is the most underutilized resource that we have. For Q3 of St. Louis County, these are the top 5 reasons in the police department that we reached out for help, right here, that we made the phone call, not internet searches. Nothing on here surprises me. I've been looking at these quarterly usage reports since almost 2011, when I became kind of the informal liaison to our EAP. Occupational, of course, that's a big deal in our world right now. has been for several years, but especially since 1920, Minnesota, pandemic, things like that. Basic stress, financial stress. Again, I think a lot of that is left over from the pandemic. Marital, and then elder care. By the way, when I look at all these quarterly usage reports, elder care is almost always on there. Anybody want to guess why? We're the sandwich generation. We're starting to take care of our parents. That's what's starting to happen. I'll never forget my dad. My dad walked into my grandmother's house one time, and she was standing on a stool getting something from the cabinet. She was 90 years old. And he's like, how in the hell are you going to get down from there? And next thing you know, we're looking into, what alternatives can we get to take care of our grandmother, his mother. But elder care is one of the most popular things right now for searches amongst us. So my question is, I asked this to all the policemen and I asked this to everybody in the room. Do you know the number to your EAP? Do you know that you even have an EAP? Unfortunately, there's people out there that don't even realize they have it. So here's how I failed. In 2011, when that officer said, hey, I need your help. And I said, I don't know it. I can't help you. He's like, I need the number to the EAP. He said, I'm going through a divorce. It's going to get ugly. I said, what can I do to help you? I've been through a divorce too. I can assure you that the light at the end of the tunnel is not a train, so hang in there. But what can I do to help you? And he said, can you give the number to the EAP? And I said, I don't have it. So I rushed to the station. I found the nearest flyer. Quit smoking. That's usually what they are. I get the number to the EAP. I bring it back to him. 3 nights later, I see him again. I'm like, hey, how did it go? And he said, you gave me the wrong number. It was an old flyer from a contract like 3 years ago. So I found the right number. I got the flyer and I gave him, I got him on the right path. But again, this is what helped open my eyes. So here's something. I am 3rd generation police officer. My grandfather and my father both retired from St. Louis City Police Department as sergeants. So I'm asking this question. I asked my dad, actually literally on the way here, I said, if our grandfather, your father, walked in the door at the 2nd District Station in St. Louis City in 1965 and said, saw my therapist today, what do you think they would do? And he said, well, they'd probably take his gun. They'd probably relegate him to a desk job. You'd hear all the officers saying, I'm not going to work next to that guy. He's crazy. Then I asked my dad, I said, in 1991, what would have happened if you'd have walked in the door? And he said, same thing, probably. And by the way, my dad in 1991, this is actually kind of difficult to watch. My dad in 1991 caught the biggest case of his career, which is the Alyssa Self case, where a 12-year-old was abducted and killed, found her body in Wayne County. And my dad wasn't even in the homicide unit. He was in the juvenile unit. And he ended up investigating it. They caught the bad guy, and my dad even went to his execution. And Discovery Channel, Discovery Plus, if you go to Ice Cold Killers, I think it's season 3, episode 1, is that story. There's my dad on TV and his partner. And you can even see in the video when he's talking about going to Wayne County for the autopsy and seeing the little girl, he gets choked up on TV. It's hard to watch, but it just goes to tell you that this stuff lingers, it hangs with you. So that was 1991, and he said, well, I said, what would happen if you walked in the door? He said, they'd tell me I'm crazy. They'd relegate me to a desk. I probably would have never been promoted. That's just the culture then. In 2021, I'm in the 7th Precinct Station, and I see an officer walk in, and he says, I saw my therapist today. And another officer walked up next to him and said, who did you see? Things have changed. Things I think are starting to change. It's that generational difference. Now it's a referral. That's what we're down. That's what we're at. So finally, as I come to the end here, I will say, tech savvy, right? This is what they want. Well, we have an app. St. Louis County has our first ever app, and I'm getting great compliments on it. It's easy to download, and there is a public version of this app. If any of our partners here today would be interested in seeing this, or getting the app, come on up and scan it. I can show it to you later or tell you how to get there. But if you go to the App Store and type in St. Louis County, it'll pop up. But this is what we're doing for our officers now. This is what they're seeing. This is the stuff that they like. This is the stuff that they want. You're getting great compliments on it. So again, Micah, I get it. Retention recruiting, right? Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. We want to try to get them here, and we want to keep them here. And I think that's what part of my job is to do, is help them stay. Thank you very much for your time. That's me again. I know everybody in here is tired of hearing from me, but folks, if you're interested, I would love to talk to you. All those things I showed you are rabbit holes. I can tell you about every one of those programs. I can maybe help you, give you some advice on increasing usage of your EAP. Starts with reminding people that you have one. But anything you ever want to talk about, email, phone number. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Got a great presentation. Scott, how do you guys play into the ABLE program? Yeah, great program, ABLE, and obviously what you do is a great, for our department. Yeah, it's changed, like you said, instead of, feeling foolish about going for help, it's people that realize they need it and good that we realize that they need it. Questions, concerns from anybody? Great. I appreciate you all being here. Emily and Shan, thank you for having us here. And we're going to do our best to, as I was talking about all of us being recruiters, we're going to also try to recruit people for this UCAN program also. We need to get this picked up again. So thank all of you all for being here. Have a good day.